Good morning. Thank you, Kent, for that great intro. It's really great to see all of you. It was actually almost 3 years ago when EO Portland put on its first ever EO Talks to a much smaller audience. And back then, I was asked to share 3 lessons that I've learned along my entrepreneurial journey. Well, that journey has continued. Today, I stand here, and we're now well over double the size we were back then. And as of probably many of you have read in the Business Journal, just recently made the decision to sell the majority of Ruby Receptionists to Updata Partners out of Washington, D.C. Getting a lot of questions about that. Oh my gosh, how did you make that decision? And what was the process like? I'm also getting a lot of questions of how were you able to achieve such a high valuation? And when I think about answering that question, I think about what they told us, that we had these never before seen sales metrics where half of our clients came from word of mouth referral. And then when they did their due diligence on us, they went and looked at the competitive landscape. And even though we were this tiny, tiny, tiny company with no real disruptive technology to speak of, we really stood alone, simply because of our reputation for exceptional customer service. So when I think about answering the question of how were we able to achieve such a high valuation, I kind of got to go back to those 3 lessons that I shared 3 years ago. The first and most important for us is to know and live what it is you stand for and surround yourself with people who stand for those same things. At Ruby, our mission is very clear. We are about preserving and creating those real, meaningful, personal connections that are increasingly lost in today's technology-focused virtual world. Kim, I think, touched on something very, very similar so beautifully earlier. So we work really hard at finding people who live to make those connections. One of my all-time favorite receptionists, I do have favorites, she was with us for 6 years. Her name was Annie. And on Annie's last day of work, she closed the place down and had a going-away party at this dive bar down the street. And I was there with her, and she says, I got to take the last call of the day. And that made me really happy. And it was a really good call. And I was, well, really, Annie, tell me about it. And she's like, well, there's this guy, and he was really angry. He was yelling at me. And at the end, I was able to help him, and he calmed down, and he thanked me. And that was her story. And I stood in awe of Annie because for her, a man who was yelling at her, who she was able to help and calm down, that was a meaningful day of work. We took 4.5 million telephone calls last year, and to our receptionists, that's 4.5 million opportunities to make a small difference in someone's day. A powerful reason to want to come to work. The second lesson I shared was about creating systems and standards across every touch point for a consistent brand experience. So it's not just about what does your product or service say about your brand, but what are you saying about your brand when someone walks in your front door? What are you saying to your customers about your brand when you send someone an invoice? And it's not just your customers, perhaps more importantly, what are you communicating to your employees about your brand? At Ruby, we are receptionists, so we are all about that first impression. So let me tell you, when it comes to an employee's first day, we will execute your first day with military precision. And on your first day, you will be escorted with your peers into our training room, where you will be treated to a fabulous brunch. And there will be beautiful flowers. And there will be collages of photos all over the training walls depicting what life at Ruby is really like. And when you're escorted to your desk, your computer will be set up already with your password predetermined by you because you've already given it to us before you even started work. And on your computer, every application you need to run your job is already loaded on your machine. And there will also be a very cute Ruby branded screensaver. And on your desk, there will be every supply you need, but there will also be a note card from your cultivator welcoming you to Ruby with a gift and a Ruby branded coffee mug. Coffee is very big at Ruby. And we do all this because it's who we are. It's what we believe in. But we also do that because we want to inspire our employees. We want to treat them the way we would like them to turn around and treat our clients. So speaking of inspiration, that leads me to my last and final lesson, perhaps a lesson we struggle to learn every day. And it's actually a management philosophy of incent, inspire, and empower. So the employees that we work so hard to attract that align with our mission. And we work so hard to dazzle with that first day. The last thing we want to do is constrict them by having strict policies and procedures and scripts that they must follow. We want to use those systems and standards to create a foundation to free them to use their personalities to be able to make those connections. Now, many of you here know that at Ruby, we have this prepaid Amazon account that every employee has access to, that they can buy anything they want at any time for any clients, any amount, no questions asked. They just have to be willing to share the story. And so this concept is kind of like incent, inspire, empower, all wrapped in a neat, tiny, pretty bow, because it obviously represents empowerment, because our employees can go ahead and make a connection with a client, make a purchase. They don't have to ask a manager or fill out a form. And we inspire through story sharing. So the story of Desi back when she was a receptionist, and she sent one of our local clients this life-size cardboard cutout of a Star Wars stormtrooper because she saw, oh, he's here today. See, the story lives on. They listed, that's awesome. They had Luke Skywalker listed as one of their employees. And that story actually has many, many chapters. It's become part of the Ruby lore. We share stories. We share stories during Ruby training. We take stories and we create posters and we put them on the break room walls, and this is where the incent comes in. We tell the best stories at company-wide staff meetings with $500 cash prizes. So we work hard, we incent around the things that really matter at Ruby. We inspire through example and story sharing, and we empower our aligned staff to achieve exceptional results. I'm Jill Nelson, our company's Ruby receptionist. I really appreciate you hearing what I have to say today. It's an honor to be with these folks, and now I'm going to bring Janelle back up, and she's got time, I hope, for a few questions for us.
We have a little time right now for some Q&A. Jan is out in our audience over here. So raise your hand and she'll come to you with the microphone, and you can ask any of our folks up here a question.
I love all of you guys. You're so amazing and impressive. I'm Holly Hagerman with Green Rising Marketing. And the thing that I keep seeing is that each of you is in some way or another saying, well, I don't run a helmet business, I run this kind of business. I don't run an ice cream business, I run a kindness business. And each one of you has something like that. And I know that there are a lot of marketing companies in the room, but I wanted to hear from you, if you're thinking about a service business, and there's only, I guess 2 service businesses up here, what do you think of when you want to deliver something that feels more tangible? Does that make sense? Because I feel like in marketing, you can just get lost in the sea of all the marketing that's out there and making it feel more tangible. So how did you identify that thing that you wanted to hold on to deliver that felt like you were packaging it up and putting it out there?
Let's see how good these mic guys are. Pretty good. So interesting question. So I was at an EO event. It wasn't gazelles. It was finding your why. So why do you get up in the morning? What is your purpose? It's based on Simon Sinek. Great book, great speaker. And I basically developed the foundation for our new tagline, which is measurable marketing that moves you. And the idea was, it came from our own brand strategist, was we'd talk the boring marketing talk, and then I would get really pissed off and talk about what mattered, and it was fixing and making our clients' business better. And so he thought that we needed more swag in our tagline, something reflected our, who we really were. And so it really came out of an EO exercise of me really wanting to differentiate. There were 5 other agencies that are EO members in the room, and they were all saying the same thing. So, like these guys are in other businesses. I wanted to be in the problem-solving business, so I retooled Anvil as a problem-solving company, not as a search marketing company or even a digital agency. And that's where I love to be, and so that's why I like coming to work. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I just add on, I like Kent's attract and repel. If you really know who you are, then it matches your brand, and it separates you from others, and it attracts the people that you want to attract, and also repels those that are a better fit elsewhere, too.
Great. Do we have some other questions out here today? I have a few that were given to me. Let's see. We've got a hand over here. We got a mic.
Hi, my name's Will Severich, and I'm not really sure what my question is, but hi, Kent. I felt like I noticed a distinct difference between the men and the women who spoke, just as far as even just approaches. And I wondered if maybe you'd like to talk about if you noticed a distinct difference.
What? That's bad.
And how that manifests in your business.
I think you should answer that.
What? I just did. I'm scared. What are you talking about? No, wait. What now?
Well, I think one thing that Michael and I have in common. Did you quit Nike or were you fired?
Both.
Okay, so a lot of entrepreneurs in the room had a vision. I was fired twice in a row within a year and realized I was unemployable. So that's my entrepreneurial journey. So I think that's the male way. I don't think these gals were fired. I think they had a vision. So I think that's the difference.
I've never been fired.
Any other questions that aren't like crossing a landmine to answer? We have a question over here. We have a microphone.
I have a question here real quick. Hi.
Oh, here. Okay.
So first, that was fantastic. All 5 of you have awesome stories. My name is Paul Brown. I'm with Cinder Staffing. And one of the challenges that I expect you probably run into is you're so passionate about what you do. You're so exciting. I want to come work for you right now. And so do you run into situations? Great. Awesome. I love ice cream. Do you run into situations where you interview somebody who seems like they're a potential great fit, they really seem to buy into what you're saying, and that's part of what you're looking for, is somebody that's going to get on board and help you with the vision, and then 2 weeks, 6 months later, you realize that actually they were sort of just drinking the Kool-Aid, and in fact they're a total miss, and this is one of the things I'm struggling with right now as well. You want to have a really identifiable brand, you want to be different, you want to have people around you that are that way, but every so often you find somebody and you thought that was going to be the case, and it just doesn't work out. And I wonder how you've sort of worked through that, and if you have any tips for filtering that out earlier in the hiring process.
I guess we're, just to point back again to EO, at Salt and Straw, we just opened in Los Angeles. We're going through a lot of growth right now, and probably my biggest challenge as an entrepreneur is knowing when it's right to invest in your infrastructure, because you want to be conservative and not blow through the little amount of money that you do have. But I probably found out the hard way that not investing in that infrastructure soon enough, can cost you more than the reverse, and bad hires can be even harder. So just to point back to EO, I don't know how many people here are familiar with the idea of top grading. But we actually have gone to a few different pretty intense seminars through EO to go through this idea of how to hire for culture, which is very similar, I think, to what Jill was talking about. Because when it's a miss, right away, right? And it's usually based on culture. And so how to spend, a whole day with someone and really drill in very specifically to knowing if they're going to be a good cultural fit. And obviously understanding if their skills are right, but it goes back to that idea of knowing who you are and knowing that really well and knowing if that person's going to be a good cultural fit or not. And working through a bad hire, again, actually at another EO talk, they had us all stand up if we have someone on our team who we know we should probably split up with. And then they had the people keep standing who know that they have taken too long. And he said, each of you are doing that person a huge disservice, and it's not fair to them. And he kind of went on to explain it a little bit more, and I found that the hard way to be true time and time again. So those are some lessons that I've had.
If I can chime in real quick as the 200% turnover guy. I had one of my first strategic hires when I turned over the company. My VP left and I needed a new account director. I hired this gal that was a client. She'd had 14 years of experience relevant to our industry. And on our first week, we flew down to our biggest client. She said she had a headache. We got through the day. We flew back. She said it got worse, and that was on a Tuesday. By Friday, she went to the emergency room. They determined she had a brain tumor, and she never came back. And I paid for her salary for 3 months while she could qualify for long-term. And she never said thank you. I never talked to her again. It was that kind of challenge that I dealt with over and over. But what I was able to do was set up a top grading 90-day review period, and nobody in that 200% made it past 90 days. And top grading isn't perfect. It helps, but I'll tell you, like, you cannot get rid of somebody fast enough. Janelle and I have had that conversation. They can be your most senior people. Mine was a CEO that I had to get rid of. I fired everybody all up and way and down the chain, and I have no regrets. I've lost my 5 biggest accounts because of that, but I still am in a better place than I was if I had kept poisonous people around.
Thank you.
We're having the same thing with distributors. In fact, we just fired one this morning. But it's fire them fast.
Fire fast.
That's what we learned
Fire
that.
slow,
Yeah.
fire fast. This is all great because we're kind of at the point where we still just do everything ourselves.
Yeah.
So this is, yeah.
These are the painful lessons of entrepreneurship. I think we have time for one more question. No, I think we're wrapping up. Okay, great. Well, thank you everybody today for coming. For those of you who are attending the test drive, it's in the studio room. We'll be gathering there about 9:15, and kickoff is at 9:30. And if you're interested in a spot in May, see Miranda out at the table, at the EO table. And thank you everybody for coming today. It was awesome.